everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Alex and today I'm bringing you my mid-March wrap-up. Now before I even get into the video, I want to say hello and thank you to all the new subscribers that I've gotten over the past week or so. My winter book haul really blew up for some reason. If you haven't yet seen it, I will link it in a card up above, but it got really popular and I got a lot of new subscribers because of it. So welcome and thank you if this is the first official video that you're seeing on my channel as a new subscriber. But today we're going to be talking about the 8 books that I've already managed to finish in the month of March. March is my birthday month, so I did treat myself with a brand new pair of earbuds that I have been wanting for a while. I bought them and I have been listening to audiobooks pretty much nonstop. So I've already managed to get through 8 books so far in the month of March and I'm going to be talking about them today. But before we get into the video, if you're new here and you're not already, be sure to go down and hit the subscribe button as well as the bell icon down below so that you never miss out on any of my content. And without further ado, let's get started. So the first book that I read in March was The June Boys by Court Stevens, and I did receive this as an e-arc through NetGalley. So thank you to NetGalley and the author and publisher for giving me an e-arc of this book for review. It came out on March 3rd. Now The June Boys is set in this world where there is a man, a criminal called the Gemini Thief, and every couple of years on June 1st he takes these boys, he just gets a group of young boys and takes them and kidnaps them. Nobody knows their whereabouts, and then 13 months later they are returned into society. They haven't been hurt, but they've just been kidnapped for these 13 months. And in the June Boys, we follow our main character, Thea, whose cousin is now one of the June Boys. He has now been kidnapped, and she has reason to believe that her father is actually the Gemini Thief. Now, I very much enjoyed this novel. I have read one other thing from Courtney Stevens before, and I really enjoy her writing style. I think it's really distinctive and unique, and it's just something that I really appreciate. I also appreciate that Courtney Stevens writes all her books in Tennessee. I believe that she lives in Tennessee. I love reading about that because I live in Tennessee and I'm from a very small town in Middle Tennessee. I currently live in a very small town in West Tennessee, and both of those towns were actually named in this book, which I just thought was incredible. I've never seen either one of these towns named in a book before, and I just thought that that was really special to me personally in my reading experience. But I thought that in general, the characters were really well developed and it made it easy to root for them, and we get a little bit of insight into what it's like to be a June boy, which was really interesting. The one thing that I will say is that since I did have the e-arc, some of the formatting was a little bit off just because it was an e-arc, but that will not be a problem for you at all if you pick up the physical copy, but it did hinder my enjoyment of it a little bit. I wound up giving this one a 4 out of 5 stars, and the thing that really knocked it down for me is that I really appreciated the suspense that we felt at the end of the novel, but I don't feel like we got a whole lot of that throughout the whole rest of the novel. So it was really good. It was an interesting mystery, but not my favorite thing that I've ever read, but like I said, I wound up giving it a 4 out of 5 stars. The next book that I completed was Dear Edward by Anne Napolitano. This book follows our main character, Edward, who when he was, I believe, 12 years old, he gets on a cross-country flight with his family, and the flight winds up crashing, and it's a packed flight. He is the only person on board that survives. So the novel is told in a dual timeline of Edward after the crash and growing up in the midst of being in the spotlight, the only person that survived this, and trying to move on without his family. And we also get to see snippets of things that are happening on the plane before it crashes. So it is told in a really interesting format with the dual timeline, and we actually get to learn a lot about several of the people that are on board the flight before it crashes, which I thought was really interesting. And in the end, those 2 timelines weave together really beautifully, and I think that that takes a whole lot of talent. This is definitely not one for the faint of heart. Definitely have your tissues ready if you're a book crier. It is incredibly emotional, but it is worth it in my opinion. It is heartbreaking, heart-wrenching, but it still leaves kind of a sense of hope in the end, and it's just a beautiful story. If you're looking for something that is more character-driven, kind of bordering on literary fiction, but definitely still has enough plot to keep you looking forward and keep you moving ahead. And I would say that it has been one of my favorites of the month so far. This was an easy 5 out of 5 stars for me. Next, I listened to the audiobook for Sleeping Giants by Sylvain Nouvelle, and this is the first book in the Themis Files trilogy. Well, this book starts out with our main character, Rose, and one day she's riding her bike and she winds up falling into what they discover to be this giant metal hand. Well, Rose winds up growing up and becoming a highly trained physicist, and she is now put on the staff to try to figure out where this hand came from. Are there other body parts? What does this mean? Who put it here? Why? All of the questions associated with this. This book, I'm really glad that I listened to it on audio. I actually did start it just on ebook, but it is told all in kind of interview style format, and I think that it really lends itself well to the audio. After that first chapter, I actually wound up stopping the ebook, switching to audio, and I'm very glad that I did that. It just sucked me in. I listened to it almost all in just one sitting. The characters are amazing, very well developed, and they all hold their own in the story, and the narrators having a full cast just added to that. There were also tons of twists and turns all throughout the novel, and a big one at the end that really makes me want to go ahead and get on Waking Gods. I already have it up from the library, hopefully gonna read it later on in this month, so check out the end of March wrap up to see if I actually do that. But overall, very much enjoyed this one. I'm giving it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Next up was the Flatshare by Beth O'Leary. This is another one that I listened to on audiobook, and this is one of the adult romances that I had picked out back in my March TBR video. So this book follows our two main characters, Tiffy and Leon, and they are flat sharing. They are flatmates, but they do not live in the apartment at the same time. So Tiffy works a day job and Leon works nights. So when Leon is gone at night, the apartment belongs to Tiffy, and when Tiffy is gone during the day, the apartment belongs to Leon. They share everything. They share the entire space. They share a bed. Chaos ensues, romance ensues, yada yada. So this is a novel that has been taking BookTube by storm recently, and it's gotten kind of mixed reviews, but I'll say I enjoyed it for the most part. One of the aspects of this novel that I really enjoyed is our main character, Tiffy, has recently gotten out of a pretty abusive relationship. I don't believe that there is any record of physical abuse, but it's definitely verbal and mental abuse, and she goes throughout the novel unlearning those behaviors that she took on throughout that relationship, and I feel like the author did a really good job of not shying away from the topic, but still treating it with respect. So that issue of it was incredibly well done throughout the whole novel. Overall, all of the relationships in here are really cute. We have several just friend relationships. We got some family relationships. We have Tiffy relating with Leon and his family, and then Leon and Tiffy's relationship in general in the end. Everything was just done really well. This is a pretty fast read to go through. I picked it up on audio and I really enjoyed it. One specific tiny little thing about the audio is if they were having a conversation on the phone, it really sounded like it was coming through the phone, which was just a little tiny extra detail that I thought was really cool and well done and just made me like the audio a little bit more. So overall, if you need a quick, fun romance, I enjoyed this one, would definitely recommend it, gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. After that, I listened to the audiobook for Still Life by Louise Penny, and this is the first novel in her Inspector Armand Gamache 3 Pines series. Now this is a series of mystery novels. They're not quite considered cozy mysteries, but they are pretty much just your classic murder mystery, and all of these mysteries take place in this cozy little town of 3 Pines where supposedly nothing bad ever happens, but in this first novel, one day this woman winds up getting killed by a hunter's arrow, and Chief Inspector Armand Gamache is tasked with coming to this town and figuring out what happened to this woman. Now this is one that I first heard about from Meredith on the Currently Reading podcast, which is my favorite bookish podcast. I've been wanting to read it for a long time and finally got the excuse to do so. It is their book club pick for this quarter, so I found this book on Scribd and went ahead and got out of the way. I'm really glad that I got into it. I will say that this is definitely just a straight up mystery. There are not really any thrilling aspects in this whatsoever. It is literally just a detective coming to this town, getting the clues, talking to people, figuring out what happened to this woman. So if you need a thriller aspect in your mysteries, you probably won't like this, but I enjoyed it for what it was. I don't think that it's the best mystery that I've ever read, but I have heard from everybody on the Currently Reading podcast that this series gets infinitely better after book 5, and I did enjoy this book enough to stick with it to that point. So I'll end up giving this one a 3.5 out of 5 stars, but I'm definitely planning to continue the series, at least up until book 5 or 6. The next book that I completed in March was the Bromance book club by Lisa K. Adams. Now this book follows our main character, Gavin, who is a Nashville baseball player, and he and his wife are on the brink of divorce after he found out that she has been faking it in the bedroom for the entirety of their marriage, and he did not take this news very well, and she wound up asking him for a divorce. Well, when Gavin lets his teammates know that his relationship is on the rocks, they bring him into the Bromance book club, where essentially they all get together and read Regency romance novels to try to understand women better and win back the women in their lives, and Gavin goes on this mission to try to win his wife back. Now this is another one I'm a little bit biased because it takes place in Tennessee. I live in Tennessee. I've been to several little places that they talk about in the novel, so I am immediately biased just because of that. Overall, I thought this was a really cute adult romance. It of course has those romance aspects in there. There's a lot of really good friendships and an interesting family story behind it as well. I will say there is a lot of sex in this book, and it is very open door. So if you are uncomfortable with that, it was a little too much for my taste, to be completely honest. And if you're uncomfortable with being in the room with them while they are doing their business, you may not like this one, or you might just want to skip over those scenes. I skimmed past it because I really don't care about it that much. So just go into it knowing that. There is also one other teeny tiny qualm that I'll say that probably only bothers me and will not bother anybody else, but the couple has a set of twin girls that are supposed to be 3 years old. I have a little boy who is almost 3 years old, and the girls in this book do not act at all like 3-year-olds in my opinion. They acted a lot more mature, probably 7 or 8, and whenever I kept picturing them in the book based on what they were doing, that's how I pictured them in my head. So it did not hinder my enjoyment of the book at all. I just thought that it was strange. And again, that might just be a weird quirk on me that nobody else will notice or care about, but I just thought I'd throw it out there. This author has been pumping out books nonstop recently. I think this one just came out in November. The sequel is coming out in next week by the time that you're watching this. And then the 3rd book is going to come out in October. So I think those next 2 books just follow other members of the baseball team. I am 100% going to be reading them. I ate this up so fast. It was super quick. So if you're looking for something like that, definitely recommend this one as well. I wound up giving it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. And then we started the backlist readathon, and the first book that I completed for that was The Test by Sylvain Neuvel. This was the shortest book on my TBR for that challenge. It comes in right around 100 pages, and I listened to this one on audiobook, very, very short. So since this one is only 100 pages long, I don't want to say a ton about the plot because really anything I say is going to give it away. So all I will tell you is that it starts off with a man sitting for the British citizenship test. This piece was definitely thought-provoking and well-written, and I commend the author 100% for how much I felt for the main character in just 100 pages. It's definitely emotional. The blurb of this calls it an immigration dystopia, which I agree with, and it's definitely thought-provoking in that regard. This is a super quick dystopian sci-fi kind of story, so if that's something that you're looking for, you can easily finish this in one sitting. Definitely recommend it. But again, I can't say too much about it and my specific thoughts because I don't want to spoil it, but just know it was good. If you're interested in it at all, it's really short, so just go ahead and pick it up. Well, I know giving this one a 4.5 out of 5 stars as well. And finally, the last book that I have completed so far in the month of March is Becoming by Michelle Obama. Now, this is Michelle Obama's memoir, and it follows her in her childhood, growing up in Chicago, moving on, going to Princeton, becoming a lawyer, meeting and marrying Barack Obama, and eventually becoming the First Lady of the United States. This book, I think, struck a perfect balance of everything that I wanted out of it. We definitely heard about some tragedies in Michelle's life, and we heard about some really incredible moments as well. She also really balanced it out with things that were happening in America as a whole versus individual stories about her and her family that we may not have gotten to see. And I just thought that in general, it was beautifully done. Absolutely loved getting to have Michelle Obama in my ear for almost 20 hours. This is a very long memoir, but it's done really well. The pacing is kept up. She puts so much thought and care into every word, even the pieces of the story that are harder to tell, or when she's talking about people that she doesn't necessarily agree with. She handles everything with care and grace, just like she has been taught to do, and she does it so well. So overall, if you are at all interested in this, I would definitely recommend it. Even if you don't agree with the Obamas politically, I think that you will relate to Michelle and her story, and just even being able to get that inside glimpse into her life and their lives in the White House was really, really interesting. So I just absolutely love this. I can't praise it enough. I obviously gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. If you're looking for a really, really solid memoir, this is the perfect one. So that is everything that I've finished so far in the month of March. As always, I want to go ahead and let you guys know about the few things that I am in the middle of. So first off, I have been reading Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban throughout the month. I have been trying to read a chapter a day, but at this point I'm a little bit behind. It's the 13th right now, and I'm in the middle of chapter 12. So I have a chapter and a half to read today to be caught up, but that means I'm about halfway through, really enjoying this so far. I have also been reading Roar by Cecilia Ahern, and this is 30 stories about women. So I've been reading one story a day throughout Women's History Month, really enjoying this one as well. Also behind on this one as well. I'm ready for story 12, so I have 2 stories to catch up on, and I will finish this one on March 30th, which just so happens to be my birthday. So overall, enjoying this one so far as well. Really, really valuing this perspective during Women's History Month. I can't reach it, so I don't feel like getting it down, but I am also starting 11/22/63 by Stephen King. I'm about 100 pages into that one, hoping to get a big chunk of it read throughout the backlist readathon and then finishing it throughout the month of March. And finally, I have been reading on my phone A Tale for the Time Being by Ruth Ozeki. This is one that I am not reading as quickly. It is not captivating me as much. I do definitely still want to power through, but it's just not what I wanted it to be. It's not the best book, but I think I am going to power through until the end. If you're not familiar with this book, it is told in 2 different perspectives. So the first is a diary from this girl named Now, and she lives in Japan. She's writing this diary, and it winds up getting washed away in the tsunami. And then comes in our second perspective of Ruth, who finds the diary washed up on the shore in Canada. She she is reading through Now's diary, but we also get to follow Ruth's life just on her own. So those are the two perspectives that we're following. I will say I really care more about Now's perspective than I do about Ruth's. I don't care about Ruth that much, so I'm really having to push through those chunks, but I'm about halfway through this one, hoping to just go ahead and push through, get it done. That way we can move on to something more exciting. But that is it for my mid-month wrap up. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and let me know what your favorite book so far has been in March. As always, if you enjoyed today's video, be sure to go down and give it a big thumbs up, as well as hitting the subscribe button and the bell icon down below so that you never miss out on any of my content. So until next time, bye!